What in the world is going on with this pool stick? This one comes from Reddit user Pumpkin Man, who shared the footage along with the caption, "I have a video of surveillance camera footage capturing a pool stick inexplicably snap itself in half on the leg of a pool table. This happened in a children's playroom at a small rural church. There have been dozens of other incidents of paranormal activity at this church, spanning multiple decades. The people, who I know personally, that took this video and work at this church fully believe the place is haunted by a child ghost." Now, I gotta say, I've seen some paranormal videos on this channel before. This one's up there for me. This is pretty weird. The way that thing's moving sounds like they believe what they're seeing. This next video comes from a hospital. A security guard was doing his rounds when he came across this wheelchair in the middle of the room. So he stands there, scratching his head, probably wondering what it's doing sitting there, but then it starts to move. At first he doesn't notice it, but when he turns back to look at the chair, it's of course now facing in the total opposite direction, so all he can do is stand there stunned, likely too petrified to move. It's bad enough worrying about your bike getting stolen as it is without ghosts getting involved. This security footage was captured in Pakistan back in 2020. So what in the world? Now, there doesn't seem to be any strong winds blowing. Of course, there's nobody nearby either. Nothing that would cause the bike to roll on its own like that and then fall to the ground. So what happened? Was a ghost trying to steal someone's bike, then realized that they had no clue how to ride and just ditched it? Probably. But what do you all think? Thoughts in the comments, please. This one comes from Reddit user Signal Pollution 4881, who says he used to work at a haunted movie theater. He shared this security footage of something seeming to move past the camera. Take a look at this. Now, this footage on its own, I mean, it's weird, but it's not that crazy, right? Well, the backstory, there's a lot going on. So he and his brother worked the night shift cleaning the theater, and from their first shift, something felt off. During that first night, the uploader heard a baby crying in an empty auditorium, even though the building had been closed for hours. He searched the entire place, but it was empty. And over the next several months, they experienced odd things, doors opening and closing on their own, unexplained footsteps in the upstairs projector room. Eventually, even his brother, who'd been skeptical at first, became convinced that something was definitely wrong. About 6 or 7 months in, the uploader was alone upstairs when he saw a black figure about 20 feet away. It seemed to have no face. It was just this eerie, shadowy mass. Terrified, he ran off without even saying a word to his brother. From then on, he constantly felt like he was being watched through the projection windows. About a year later, his brother saw a thick black smoke cloud form out of nowhere in the bathroom before vanishing. Shaken, they finally started talking about their experiences. They kept working there though, because the pay was decent and the shifts were short. The activity mostly quieted down, just the occasional mysterious footstep. Sometimes they'd see things moving and would hear disembodied voices. This video came later after they'd already quit. It was sent to him by a former coworker around Halloween and seems to show the same black figure he once saw in the projection booth. These creepy images were shared to X by Scared for Life 2, who wrote that their friend works at Central Library in Manchester. In October of 2019, the uploader popped in for a visit, and the friends shared these images. They came from the security camera in the basement corridors. Now, I don't know about this place having any history of paranormal activity, but it was built in 1934, not super old, especially by England standards, but it is enough time to have racked up some history. And if anyone had died in the building, or was just someone who had a fondness for the place, maybe they never left. Remember the Myrtle's Plantation? I've talked about it on the channel a number of times. It's said to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. Well, now we have some footage. This security camera happened to pick up something incredibly startling during a tour, right in the middle of the day. So the group is standing in the foyer. They're slowly making their way deeper into the home, very slowly, as this is not a group of spring chickens. And then suddenly, this happens. So a series of super loud bangs on the wall are heard, the mirror shakes violently, and then a sculpture falls down. Now, could this have been staged? There's always the possibility, but I hope that's not the case, because if it was, that was pretty messed up. You really shouldn't be playing pranks on old folks like this, especially with loud bangs. So this eerie piece of footage comes from a government office in Mexico City. According to the staff, especially the security guards, strange things were happening there all the time. They said they were constantly getting spooked, but the most disturbing part was that several of them claimed to see some kind of monk-like figure that would appear and harass them. People would also report hearing cries and screams in the early hours of the morning. Then one night, a security camera finally captured this, which looked exactly like the creepy figure that had been terrifying them night after night. Imagine you're alone at home in the middle of the night, cleaning up around the house, when suddenly something cuts through the silence. It's a whisper, and not only is it a whisper, but it's your name. This is what happened to Reddit user iggytalls_15, who said, "I heard someone very distinctly whisper Mike from behind me. I thought one of my kids had walked downstairs, but when I saw there was no one, I bolted. It was just me and the dogs/cat around 12 a.m. This is also an old home from the 1850s, and a crew member who died in the Halifax explosion lived here in the early 1900s. Take a listen to this and a watch. Security footage from Wellington Indoor Market in Telford, England caught something that left workers a bit rattled the next day. When traders showed up one morning, they found a bunch of boxes scattered across the floor and stairs. At first they thought someone had broken in, of course, but when they checked the CCTV, what they saw was something else entirely. A dark, shadowy figure walking up the stairs and then knocking over the boxes. Now, it's not very easy to make out the figure walking up the stairs, but if you look closely enough, you can see some sort of shadowy shape appear. The boxes falling are clearly visible though. Market manager Kay Bokai said, "We came into the market in the morning and the boxes were all over the place. On the floor, over the stairs. We thought we'd had an intruder, so we obviously went straight to the CCTV. We couldn't believe what we saw. All the hairs stood up on the back of my neck. There was nobody there when the boxes fell off. We watched it again and we could see the shadow walking up the stairs, then chucking the boxes over." End quote. Now, this market isn't new to strange activity. It's been around since 1244. According to Kay, sometimes there are strange things that go on when people are alone. Some people say they have seen a shadow go past them. She also mentioned an incident where, quote, "two people were alone in the market. They were talking when they heard coughing coming from the other side of the building. When they looked around, it was totally empty." Other weird moments include doors slamming and hand dryers turning on by themselves. Who is this staring at the security camera after hours? So a security guard monitoring a CCTV system got an alert that someone was on the property after hours, well past closing time when no one should have been there, other than him, of course. When he checked the footage, what the camera caught was unsettling, to say the least. There's this small, ghostly figure with glowing eyes standing in the distance. Some have said it looks like a little boy, standing there, staring right at the camera. The clip has since been linked to the legend of the Pocong, a ghost from Indonesian and Malaysian folklore. According to the belief, a Pocong is the spirit of a dead person who's still wrapped in their burial shroud. In some versions of the legend, the soul remains trapped if the ties around the shroud aren't removed after 40 days. And the spirit is forced to wander, often appearing as this pale figure with bound limbs and a haunting stare. So what is this thing hovering in the sky? This footage is from a live news broadcast in Rio Branco, Brazil. On February 9th, 2009, TV Gazeta showed up to capture what witnesses described as a colorful object hovering over the city. Whatever this thing was, it changed color multiple times, flashing from blue to red to white. There were more than 25 witnesses that night who watched as this thing hovered in the sky for more than 2 hours. Then it moved from east to south and afterwards south to west. Pretty strange. Certainly doesn't look like a plane or satellite to me, and not that a drone would be totally unheard of in 2009. They certainly weren't as widely used as they are now though. Till this day, we still don't know exactly what this thing was. Alright, this one's pretty ridiculous, but I do love me some possession videos. Always fun to see what weird noises these evil spirits force out of people's mouths. Back in 2016, something pretty strange happened on a Thai talk show. A model came on the show and told everyone that she had picked up a ghost while on vacation in the city of Rayong the year before. She said this ghost was a pop, a type of spirit in Thai culture. It's known for having an uncontrollable hunger. At first, she just calmly explained what had happened to her. You know, ghost got inside my body somehow. Well, and then right in the middle of the interview, the pop just had to embarrass this poor woman on live television. To be fair though, she should have seen this coming. She'd been dealing with the thing's antics for a whole year at this point. Suddenly she seems to switch, like something else is talking through her. She started speaking in a different voice and just couldn't seem to snap out of it. No matter how much the hosts pushed her to stop, they kept telling the spirit to leave her alone, but it refused, making threats like, "Don't mess with me," which probably sounds a lot cooler in Thai. Then one of the hosts pulls out a necklace with a Buddha pendant. As soon as he held it up, she freaks out, screaming and recoiling in terror. Very loudly, I might add. I had to turn down the volume almost all the way because I was worried everyone was going to hear female screams through my headphones and that I'd be kindly asked to leave the office. Eventually, the host puts the necklace on her though, and just like that, she seems to come back to her senses. The clip went viral in Thailand and racked up millions of views. Just what is it we're looking at here? Well, this aired on a local news station in Pueblo, Colorado, and the anchors were genuinely confused, as were a lot of people watching, as to what they were looking at. It's some weird looking animal with patchy black fur, a reddish face, and long skinny arms hunched over eating something off the ground. Apparently the woman who filmed the creature had actually seen it once before, but she had no idea what it was either. Other than an animal with mange, the word chupacabra was thrown around a lot. Well, later on, Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials looked into it and said the animal was probably a raccoon with mange. Mange is a skin disease that can cause animals to lose most of their fur and look pretty rough. I mean, you take the cutest furry animal on earth, shave all its hair off, and it looks pretty damn freaky. This image here was shared on news stations all over the world. Nobody knew what the hell this thing was when news first broke, and nobody knows what it is now, but it's since become known as the unidentified Amarillo object. In 2022, the Amarillo Zoo in Texas got a lot of attention after they shared a strange image caught on their security cameras. The picture was taken at 1:25 a.m. by a motion detecting camera showing a bizarre figure walking just outside the zoo fence. And what's creepy is that it's walking on two legs. Clearly though, this is not a person, unless they're wearing a costume, which is an odd thing to be doing at 1:30 in the morning, skulking around a zoo. When the zoo posted the image on Twitter, they leaned into the mystery, asking, is it a person with a strange hat who likes to walk at night, a chupacabra? Do you have any ideas of what this UAO, unidentified Amarillo object, could be? The zoo never outright claimed it was anything supernatural or like a cryptid or anything, but they didn't offer up any solid explanations either, because they didn't have one. Now, could this have been a weird marketing stunt? Maybe, but city officials and the zoo's director, Michael Kashiba, insisted the photo was not staged. And 3 years later, we still don't have any solid answers. Back in 2014, ABC7 covered a story about a strange creature captured by a couple in South Texas. Jackie Stocks told the news crew that her husband spotted a weird creature in the yard eating corn. The husband said he'd hunted raccoons and said he'd never heard one growl like this before.
Parma says one of the big signs it's not a raccoon is its growl.
Now, they also interviewed an apparent wildlife expert who looked at footage of the strange animal and said it was probably a canine with mange. Thing is, canines do not use their hands the way this thing does. I mean, have you ever seen your dog eat like this? I didn't think so. Wildlife expert, maybe go get a new career? I don't know. This footage was shown on One India News a few years ago. In Jharkhand, a group of bikers were riding along late at night when they saw this person walking along the side of the road. The video is pretty grainy, but you can still make out the figure. It looks pale, extremely thin, and moves in this weird, unnatural way. It doesn't seem to move its arms. It's like that character in Seinfeld that doesn't move when they walk. When it turns its head, it also seems to have these glowing yellowish eyes, so people online started commenting that this thing looked a lot like an alien. Of course, no one knows for sure what the bikers caught on camera, but whatever it is, I would be very uncomfortable seeing it anywhere at any time, let alone a rural road in the middle of the night. Back in 2019, 9 News Australia ran a story about a pub called the Tyler's Kiln. The pub is owned by a man named Alistair Collins, who's pretty convinced that the place is haunted. Collins had a whole collection of late-night security footage showing some really odd stuff happening after hours. Chairs are seen sliding out from tables all by themselves. Umbrellas suddenly pop open with no one around, and doors slam shut even though the place is completely empty. One of the news anchors even tried to recreate the chair moving like it did in the footage, but he couldn't really pull it off. The ground is just too uneven to smoothly drag the chair like that, and setting up a string or some trick would have been pretty tough without it showing up on camera. They also tested how the umbrella could have opened on its own and figured it would have been nearly impossible to pull off without someone being caught in the frame. The creepiest story probably came from an electrician who was working there during some renovations. He heard small doors swinging near the kitchen and loud footsteps heading upstairs. He thought the only other person in the building had, of course, gone upstairs, but when he called out, said person came walking out of the kitchen right in front of him. So what was going on up there? Well, they went upstairs to check, and no one was there. The whole top floor was completely empty. I love stories like that. This next piece of footage still gets shared around online from time to time. Back in 2016, something strange happened during a Sky Sports broadcast. After a game, pundits Jamie Carragher and Phil Neville were chatting about the match, as sports commentators do, but eagle-eyed viewers at home noticed something weird in the background. There was a shadowy figure moving across the empty field. At first, it just looked like a regular groundskeeper doing cleanup, pushing equipment across the grass, but then the dude just vanishes. Viewers immediately jumped online to talk about what they saw. One person wrote, "Did anyone else notice the ghost groundsman?" Another said, "Monday Night Football, keep an eye out. There's an effing ghost groundsman in the Northeast." And someone else joked, "Ghost groundsman at the Stadium of Light. The ground needs an exorcism." No one from Sky Sports or the stadium ever confirmed what it actually was, and the pundits never addressed it. So this is security footage of a car plowing into a police station. Luckily, it wasn't a robot from the future looking to terminate anyone in the building though, just a dude in a blouse with no pants ranting and raving that he was possessed by the devil, throwing rubber snakes all around the place. Guess what state this happened in? It's Florida. So in June of 2024, a 40-year-old man named Joseph Leedy made headlines in Martin County, Florida when he drove his Toyota sedan straight into the lobby of the Martin County Jail. The cops found Leedy wearing only a woman's blouse with no pants. He'd poured motor oil on the floor and threatened to set the place on fire. Leedy also threw rubber snakes onto the floor and made disturbing statements, including that the, quote, devil told me to kill everyone. Deputies, of course, tried to subdue Leedy as he resisted arrest. Even after being tased and given multiple doses of medicine to try and calm him down, he still wasn't cooperating. Leedy was eventually restrained though, and taken to a hospital where he just kept yelling and screaming. Fortunately, no one was injured during the incident as the lobby was empty at the time. This next eerie clip comes out of Mexico. A teacher was captured on a security camera one night marking some papers when he started to act strangely. See, according to him, the mother of a student came to the classroom door and they had started having a conversation, but everyone was confused because the only person on camera was him. The teacher said that this parent came to the door and asked him for a student, who of course wasn't there. The school day had ended. He then said he watched as the mom walked to an adjacent room, at which point he got up to speak to her more, but when he got to that room, he found it was completely empty, and there was no sign of the woman anywhere in the hallway either. Suddenly, it dawned on him that something was just off about this whole situation, at which point he decided to grab his stuff and get the hell out of there. Now, this may be one of the most famous instances of a possible possession captured on security footage. The woman in the clip is named Debbie Berman. She was on a ghost hunt, part of a team investigating one of the most haunted houses in Britain, a place called The Cage in St. Osyth, Essex. It used to be a prison for women accused of witchcraft back in the Elizabethan era. 8 of these supposed witches are said to have died there. Well, the ghost hunting crew decided that they were going to stay overnight, and at around 3 a.m., while they were in the master bedroom, said to be the most active room in the house, something strange happened. Debbie started acting weird. Well, more like her face started acting weird, morphing into this twisted, ghoulish grin, her eyes turning pitch black, and it was all caught on one of the security cameras they'd placed in the room. Lead investigator Brad Mack was pretty shaken up, saying she looked totally unrecognizable. And things got even freakier when Debbie said that her back was burning. She lifted her jacket, and there were 4 deep scratches down her back. Nobody was near her, nobody touched her, at least no one the team was able to see. There's this wild piece of footage out of Brazil that started making the rounds back in 2017. It was recorded at Miguel Couto Municipal Hospital in Rio de Janeiro, and honestly, it's one of the creepiest things ever caught on camera inside a hospital. So this guy shows up with a bullet wound to the face, and instead of lying down and waiting for help like a normal injured person, he starts wandering the halls. But it's not just stumbling around, he's walking like he's being taken over by something. His back is all rounded back, his arms and legs are jerking in these weird, unnatural ways, and he's screaming, but it doesn't sound exactly like screams of pain. Instead, it almost sounds like he's exhilarated, being controlled by someone or something else. Security guards managed to capture some of the altercation on camera. There was no official word from the hospital about what actually happened. They never released a diagnosis, never explained it medically. Any level-headed person would, of course, assume he was on something, but without context, you'd probably think this was behind-the-scenes footage of a zombie movie or something. In York County, Pennsylvania, a mom of 4 named Amanda Pitt caught something really weird on her security camera. It rattled her so badly, her family started thinking about moving. So at 3:40 a.m. on October 21st of 2023, Amanda had been sleeping when she suddenly woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps inside the house. Naturally, she checked her security camera feed, expecting to see her husband or maybe one of the kids moving around, but no, what she saw was something else entirely. "I made sure Jeffrey was still in bed because I thought it could be him," she said. "I checked on the camera and stared at it for a little bit because I thought I saw somebody." On the feed, there was this blurry, ghostly figure just standing in the doorway of her kitchen, not walking, not moving, it was just there. Totally freaked out, she shook Jeffrey awake and told him to go check it out. He crept downstairs, and there was nothing. No open doors, no broken windows, there was no sign of a break-in. But their dog, Ollie, was acting sort of weird, pacing the kitchen, clearly shaken up by something. Amanda couldn't shake the feeling. She stayed up the rest of the night, glued to the TV, trying to calm herself down, but that image was burned into her brain. "I couldn't go back to sleep. I laid there and turned on the TV because I was scared," Amanda continued. "I kept going back to the camera, but I couldn't see it anymore, so I thought maybe I was seeing things. The next morning, I didn't even know what to make of it." She kept a screenshot of the ghostly figure just to prove that she wasn't going crazy, but even with the photo, she still kept checking the camera again and again, trying to convince herself that she'd just imagined it. Thing is, this wasn't the only time something strange had happened in the home. "Things have happened here before," Amanda said. "The people who lived here before didn't live here for very long, but we never found out why." Amanda and her family moved in back in 2020, and weird stuff started happening almost immediately. She'd get camera alerts on her phone when no one was home. Doors would open on their own. The kitchen sink turned itself on one time. "I've never been a ghost believer, but we've had things happen that make us question it," she admitted. "That picture is terrifying. Thinking there's something like that in your house, you question everything. Well, if the dead ever did start rising from their graves and we had a real-life zombie situation on our hands, I imagine it would look something like this. This is some doorbell camera footage of a man trying to break into a house. I don't think this guy lives here. Now, obviously he's on something, right? Or a concoction of substances, but my god, it does look like a zombie. The raggedy clothing, the scrapes and bruises all over his body, how lanky he is. It looks like he was just bitten by a walker from The Walking Dead. He's so out of his mind that he starts violently throwing himself into the door, and he hits it so hard that he eventually just falls backward, having nearly knocked himself out cold. I do not want to think about what this guy would have done if he'd made it inside the home. See if you spot anything creepy about this next clip. Here's some context for this one. So this is surveillance footage from a manga cafe inside a multi-tenant building in Japan. The camera is set up right at the reception counter, capturing footage of the elevator near the entrance. Now notice as the elevator doors open and the man exits the doors. He's not alone in that small elevator. Right behind him, you can spot this tall woman in a red dress. At first, it doesn't look all that unusual, but take a closer look. Doesn't she look almost freakishly tall? She'd have to bend down to clear the elevator doors. But maybe she wasn't standing there. To some, it looks more like she's floating in the air. Not to mention that she's completely motionless. The more you look at this clip, the more unsettling it gets. It almost looks like footage you'd see from The Ring. Especially because, according to people in the neighborhood, the woman in the clip, as grainy and low quality as it is to be fair, looked a lot like a woman who'd taken her life in a nearby park not long before this footage was taken. And, of course, we need to talk about the infamous Elisa Lam case, one of the most unsettling pieces of security footage online. Back in 2013, Elisa, a Canadian student, was staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. She went missing. No one could figure out what happened to her. Then the LAPD dropped that elevator footage, the one we've all seen. It's only a couple minutes long, but man, it gave everyone the creeps. In the video, Elisa steps into the elevator and starts pushing a bunch of buttons, like all of them, but the elevator doors won't close. Then she starts peeking her head out like she's hiding from someone. She moves her hands in this strange, slow motion sort of way as she steps in and out of the elevator, almost like she's playing a game. She also looks like at one point she's talking to someone, but no one else ever appears in the footage. This was all authorities had to work off of. She was nowhere to be found. A couple weeks later, though, hotel guests started complaining that their water tasted funny. Sometimes it would come out muddy and dark. Maintenance checks the rooftop water tanks and, well, there's Elisa's body. But this just opened up a whole Pandora's box. Most of it centered around two very big questions, though. Why was she there, and how did she get in there? The doors were supposedly locked and alarmed, and the tank was not easy to access, especially in the state she was in. The official cause of death was accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a contributing factor here. Still, that elevator footage has fueled theories for years. Everything from ghostly possession to some sort of cover-up. Maybe someone was there off camera she was hiding from. Well, there are still a lot of unanswered questions about this case to this very day, which is why we still talk about it. This right here is what's known as one of the most radioactive areas of Chernobyl. That's saying a lot. After the explosion in 1986, a lot of the melted core material ended up pooling underneath the plant. One of the most dangerous things left behind is what's now known as the elephant's foot, this giant solid mass of radioactive goo made up of melted nuclear fuel, metal, sand, and concrete. It got the name because of the way it looks, like a huge wrinkled lump. It kind of looks like elephant skin. At the time it formed, it was extremely radioactive. Just standing near it for a few minutes back then would have killed you. Photos were taken by bouncing cameras off mirrors that no one had to get too close. The surface was so hot that it was physically burning through the floors. These days it's cooled down a lot, and it's not instantly lethal anymore, but it's still dangerously radioactive, and it's locked away deep inside the ruins of the plant. This is footage of one of the reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant exploding. So on March 11th, 2011, there was a massive 9.0 earthquake off the coast of Japan. This caused a giant tsunami which hit the power plant. The plant was designed to shut down automatically during emergencies like earthquakes, but the tsunami flooded the backup generators, which were supposed to keep the reactors cool, and with no power, the cooling system failed, and over the next few hours, the reactors started to overheat. The pressure built up, and 3 of the reactors went into full meltdown. Hydrogen gas built up inside the reactors, and eventually it exploded, sending radioactive material into the air. The fallout spread to nearby towns, and thousands had to evacuate. The ocean got contaminated as well, and on top of that, there were more nuclear emergencies, including a radioactive leak into a wastewater storage pool. Cleanup is still happening. It could take more than 40 years to fully decommission the plant. While the reactors have been shut down, the area around Fukushima is still heavily contaminated, and large parts are still off limits. This is footage of workers cleaning up radioactive sludge from the K East Basin. The K East Basin was a large pool at the Hanford site in Washington, D.C. It stored used nuclear fuel from a reactor called the N reactor. It was built in the 50s close to the Columbia River, which made it risky if anything leaked. Well, over time, the fuel started to break down, creating a thick radioactive sludge at the bottom of the pool. The basin became heavily contaminated, and it was getting concerning, so the US Department of Energy decided that it needed to be cleaned up. Workers removed the fuel and sludge over the course of years. Once the cleanup was done, they drained the water and filled the basin with grout to prevent anything left inside from spreading. These workers were vacuuming about 55 cubic yards of radioactive ooze. They stood on grates suspended above the 20-foot deep basin and used vacuuming equipment at the end of long poles. You'll notice there are also shots from the underwater cameras that they used to help guide their work. This is drone footage of Pripyat, a place that's been frozen in time ever since the Chernobyl disaster in '86. This town, once home to workers at the nuclear plant, was evacuated within 36 hours of the meltdown, and people left everything behind. The streets are now empty, the buildings are decaying, and nature is slowly covering the area. As you can see, this footage is kinda eerie. The abandoned buildings, the rusted playgrounds, the iconic Ferris wheel. It looks like a set from The Walking Dead. As cold and quiet as the place is, though, radiation is still very much a problem here, and most of the town is off limits. What you're looking at here is just one of the many nuclear explosions at a test site called Semipalatinsk in what is now Kazakhstan. The Semipalatinsk test site was one of the most active places for nuclear weapons testing during the Cold War. Between 1949 and 1989, the Soviet Union conducted over 450 nuclear tests here. This made it one of the most radioactive places in the world. The tests were kept secret from the public for years, but the long-term effects are still being felt to this day. People living nearby have suffered from higher rates of cancer and more birth defects, and the environment's been permanently damaged. The site was abandoned after the Soviet Union fell, but to this day, radiation levels are still very dangerous in some parts. Now we have this gray mound of rock near Weldon Spring, Missouri. It doesn't look all that interesting, but the backstory is pretty nuts. During World War II, the site was used to produce explosives. Then in the 50s and 60s, uranium was enriched for nuclear weapons at the facility. The problem was, when the operation shut down in the late 60s, they didn't really clean up. There were piles of uranium and radium, TNT, and asbestos left behind. It was just this giant toxic mess. If someone were to fall into it, they'd end up like that dude in RoboCop. So, to deal with it, the government decided to cover it all up. Not in a conspiratorial sense, I mean literally just cover it up. They built a giant hill to seal in all the radioactive waste and chemical debris. This mound is now called the Weldon Spring Site Remedial Action Project Disposal Cell, but locals have just nicknamed it the Nuclear Waste Adventure Trail. Today, people can visit the site, climb to the top of the mound, and get a view of the surrounding area. There's really not much to see other than grass out in the distance, but I guess it's cool to stand on. The hill is used by birdwatchers as well, and amateur astronomers who just like looking at the clear skies at night. I can't say that this would be my go-to spot on like a pleasant nature walk. I get that it's supposedly totally safe now, but I don't know, I still wouldn't want to spend too much time in a place like this. According to one former security guard though, they spent years working at the site without any major health problems. Still, it's a pretty weird spot for a tourist attraction. This is archival footage of a nuclear test being carried out at a site called Amarillo in Australia. The British government carried out a series of nuclear tests here between 1956 and 1963. 7 nuclear explosives were detonated above ground, along with over 600 minor trials. These minor tests were anything but harmless though. They involved experiments with plutonium, uranium, and other toxic stuff that spread contamination across the area. The fallout impacted not just the test site, but also nearby Aboriginal communities, many of whom were never properly warned or relocated. And the cleanup, which didn't start until decades later, has been heavily criticized. At one point, workers just bulldozed contaminated soil into pits and buried it. Some plutonium-contaminated areas were only partially cleaned and still are a risk today. Even after remediation, scientists have found radioactive particles spread far beyond the core test zones. Amarillo is technically open to visitors now, and some tours are available, but access is limited, which is a good thing. Long-term effects of the testing on the indigenous people here is still not addressed all that well, and the full health impact still isn't fully known. So it's isolated, but it's one of the most contaminated places in the southern hemisphere. This is footage taken in what's called a radon health mine. So this is a place where people pay to inhale radioactive gas for health reasons. The one you're looking at here happens to be in Germany, but Montana is really the place to go if you want to try this out for yourself, which I wouldn't do, but some swear by it. So in Montana, there are a handful of abandoned uranium mines that have been repurposed into these radon health mines. These mines naturally emit radon gas, which is radioactive and is said to increase your risk of cancer. But for decades, some people have believed that short-term exposure can actually help with conditions like arthritis, asthma, and just chronic pain. So instead of avoiding it, visitors pay to spend hours underground sitting in folding chairs just breathing it in. It's not backed by any major medical organizations, and the long-term effects here are questionable at best. Radon is a known carcinogen, and the Environmental Protection Agency lists it as the second leading cause of lung cancer in the US. Gotta say, this has to be one of the strangest uses of a radioactive site. This was the Baker event, nuclear test conducted at Bikini Atoll on July 25th of 1946. Bikini Atoll, part of the Marshall Islands in the Pacific, was used by the United States as a nuclear testing site after World War II. Between 1946 and 1958, the US detonated 23 nuclear weapons here, including some of the most powerful ever tested. The most infamous was Castle Bravo in 1954, which ended up being more than twice as powerful as expected and spread radioactive fallout across a much wider area than they'd planned. Nearby islanders weren't given proper warning and were exposed to high levels of radiation. Some were relocated, but the long-term effects were pretty bad, mainly increased cancer rates and, again, birth defects. To this day, the area is uninhabitable. Some former residents have been allowed some short visits, but nobody actually lives here full time. Oddly though, they tried to promote Bikini as a great place to dive. To be fair, the lagoon is filled with shipwrecks from World War II, but that's because it was a fleet used as nuclear target practice. Yeah, I don't know if this would be the first place on my list of diving destinations. This is Lop Nur in Xinjiang, China. It's a dried up lake bed also known as the Sea of Death. For decades, this was China's main nuclear testing site. Starting in the 60s all the way up to 1996, they ran 45 nuclear tests out here. They dropped explosives from planes, they did underground detonations, and blew up hydrogen bombs. It's super remote, which made it ideal for military use, but that didn't mean people weren't being affected. Some of the blasts released huge clouds of radioactive dust, and to this day, no one really knows the full impact on people or the environment. After the last test in 1996, the site went quiet. Until recently, in late 2023, satellite images showed some new construction popping up. Roads, fences, some buildings. Some think China's getting ready to start testing again, which the government has, of course, denied. So when I first saw this clip, I thought it was AI. This is Kid Strobe, aka Frenchy Baby, a dancer who can obviously move in freaky ways. He's known for having the most flexible arms in the world. Frenchy Baby started bone breaking and turfing when he was a teenager. Turfing was a style of dance that began in Oakland, California. It's all about storytelling through movement. Kid Strobe and his friends would perform on public transit to earn money and stay involved in the dance world. Frenchy Baby's extreme flexibility has led to a lot of big opportunities. He's been featured in music videos. He's appeared on shows like Romania's Got Talent, where he got the golden buzzer, America's Got Talent, So You Think You Can Dance, The Ellen Show, and Jimmy Kimmel Live. So you ever seen anything like this before? Yeah, I have not either. That is crazy. So this is Gary Turner, aka Stretch. Obviously his skin is incredibly stretchy. He holds the Guinness World Record for the stretchiest skin on the planet thanks to a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It affects the body's connective tissue, making his skin super stretchy without it tearing. He can pull the skin on his stomach more than 6 inches away from his body. It's very surreal to watch. Gary's been showing off his bizarre talent for years, performing all over the world and even joining sideshows like the Circus of Horrors and Ripley's Believe It or Not. He's pulled off some seriously wild stunts on stage, like stretching his neck skin over his face like you just saw, or using his skin as a drink holder. It's freaky, sure, but also oddly fascinating? I don't know how to describe it. It's really weird. Beyond the shock factor though, Gary's used his condition to educate people about Ehlers-Danlos and raise awareness. Ever looked at a tennis racket and thought to yourself, yeah, I could probably squeeze my whole body into that? Well, this next guy has. This is Daniel Browning Smith, aka Rubber Boy. Wonder how he got that name. He's hands down one of the most flexible people to ever walk the planet. He's a contortionist, actor, stuntman, TV host, all-around performer who holds 7 Guinness World Records for his flexibility. His body moves in ways that just don't seem possible. That's because he has a rare genetic condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which gives his joints and skin an extreme level of stretch and bend that most people could just never pull off. Daniel grew up in Meridian, Mississippi with a brother and sister. From the time he was 4, he was obsessed with contortionists and dreamed of becoming the best in the world. His first trick was jumping off the top bunk of his bed and landing in a full straddle split, which, yeah, shocked the hell out of his family. As a teen, he started doing street performances to show his flexibility and get noticed. When he turned 18, he joined the circus and then started formal training under Master Lu Yi at the San Francisco School of Circus Arts. And from there, things took off and Rubber Boy became one of the most well-known contortionists in the world. If you're a horror movie fan, there's a good chance you've seen this next guy and you just didn't know it. He's been playing zombies and other creatures since 2016. Troy James is a contortionist and actor who's built a reputation for moving like something straight out of one of your worst nightmares, in the best way possible though. He's known for his freaky fast exorcist crab walk, crazy backbends. A lot of people first saw him on America's Got Talent, where he bent himself into shapes that had the judges squirming in their seats, but before that, he was already acting in horror movies. Troy is from Canada and actually worked a regular office job before going full-time into contortion and acting. What makes him stand out isn't just how flexible he is, but how he uses that flexibility. He embodies these freaky, inhuman creatures. If you've ever seen The Void, Channel Zero, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Rabbit, the Chucky TV series, you've seen him in action. I love it. No CGI needed. That's just all him. We need more of that in modern movies. This is Zlata, one of the most flexible women in the world. Zlata, whose real name is Julia Guntel, is a world-famous contortionist known for doing things with her body that most of us can't even imagine, let alone attempt. I can barely get through a night of sleep without my shoulders and my back hurting. I can't even imagine doing stuff like this. She was born in Kazakhstan and raised in Germany. She started out as a gymnast before realizing she had an extreme level of flexibility that went way beyond the norm. poses where she basically turns herself into a human knot. She's been performing since she was a teenager, and eventually earned the nickname Zlata, which means golden in Russian, fitting considering she's held multiple world records. Her spine is so flexible that she's able to rotate her upper body 180 degrees. A lot of her poses just look like they've been photoshopped. Not the case though. Zlata's appeared on TV shows and live circus acts and in lots of photo shoots that really show off her insane flexibility. Isao Machi is this martial artist from Japan who's just on a whole different level with the katana. He practices Iaido, an old school samurai art where you draw and strike in one smooth motion, but what sets him apart is how freakishly fast and precise he is. One of the wildest things he can do is slice a BB pellet in half in mid-air. So here, watch this.
I heard it.
So that's a tiny plastic ball fired from an airsoft at crazy speed, and this guy draws his katana from the sheath and cuts it clean through as it's flying at him. That's not just impressive, that is full-on real-life anime stuff. And just to drive it home, most people wouldn't even be able to see a BB pellet flying through the air, let alone react fast enough to hit it with a blade. Incredible. And now for a different kind of movement, straight up flying. This is a rather famous piece of footage that's been circulating online for years. Apparently this was filmed in a forest somewhere in Russia. The camera person's dog seems disturbed by something and runs off ahead. When the cameraman steps into a clearing, we see something completely unexpected. A woman is standing on the ground looking up at a young girl who's just hovering in the air. Soon they realize they're being filmed and they rush off back into the forest. This video falls firmly into that mysterious internet video category. There's not a lot of information about it. It was posted back in 2012 and went viral. There's not a whole lot of information on it. This was filmed at the pedestrian bridge in Kiev, not exactly where you'd expect to see Spider-Man hanging out, but apparently he was. Looks a lot like Spider-Man, to me anyway. I don't know how you guys feel. And there's anything we know about Spider-Man though, it's that he does not move like a normal person. So why is this person crawling along this bridge? It seems pretty risky. The water down there doesn't look deep at all, so if they slipped, it wasn't gonna end well. Unless they've got actual web-slinging powers, a fall from that height could do real damage. So who is this? Some adrenaline junkie? Someone who's just lost it completely? I have no idea. I'm just kinda hoping it really is Spider-Man. This is a weird one. A man completely frozen in place in the middle of the street. Again, no real info on this one. It just is what it is. Weird. And no, we have not paused the clip. This is the footage. What's nuts about this one isn't just that the guy is frozen in place. He's like mid-stride. He looks like an NPC glitching in a video game instead of someone just standing really still. I can't see any movement from this guy. No twitching, like no subtle movement of any kind. It's pretty impressive, honestly. Any thoughts on this one? Share your thoughts down below. And finally, we have this mysterious piece of footage. Look, hospitals are already the last place I want to be. Aside from like waking up buried alive in a coffin or in a burlap sack in the lake, still, hospital's not where I want to be. So seeing this would just make things all the more uncomfortable for me. Probably not as uncomfortable as her, because her back looks like it's about to snap, but I'd be pretty freaked out. If you have thalassophobia, a fear of large, deep bodies of water, this first video ain't for you. Unless you like being scared, which in that case, stick around, I guess. So this dude is sitting in a boat, looks like he's pretty far out from shore. Lovely water, bright blue skies, everything is hunky-dory, till you see a large shape moving through the water passing under the boat. I don't know if he gets knocked off or just decides to jump into the water to get a closer look, but oh boy, when he does, it is quite the sight. Man, just look at this thing. It might be a whale, I'm not sure about that though. It's big though, and obviously it's not causing any harm, but just the sheer size of something like that swimming right under your feet while you're out in the middle of the water, it just reminds you of how small and insignificant you are and how many insanely large things are lurking down in the depths of the ocean. Next up, we have some mysterious sea creature footage. This video was taken in Nushagak Bay, Alaska in 2009 by a fisherman named Kelly Nash. The thing looks long and seems to have humps. At the time, a lot of people were comparing it to the famous Loch Ness monster, but a lot of other people have said this could be the Cadborosaurus, aka Caddy. Caddy is a legendary sea serpent spotted along the Pacific coast of North America, especially around the area of Cadboro Bay in British Columbia. The creature's name comes from the bay, of course, and then the Greek word saurus, which means lizard or reptile. According to witnesses, Caddy looks like a giant serpent with a long neck and a horse-like head, along with several humps or coils along its body. It has small flippers at the front and either regular or fused flippers at the back, forming a large fan-like tail used for swimming. Over the years, scientists have tried to figure out what Caddy could actually be, with many suggesting it could be a misidentified animal like a humpback whale or a sea lion or a giant eel. Experts like Dr. Paul LeBlanc and Dr. Edward Blausfield argue that no known creature matches the descriptions from over 200 reported sightings of Caddy though, especially because it seems to have flippers at both ends of its body. So could this footage be genuine proof of Caddy? What do you think? Life eats life. It's as natural as it gets, but actually seeing it happen just reminds us of how harsh nature can be sometimes. And this video here is a prime example of that. Captured at the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, this footage here shows a bunch of octopuses gnawing at the remains of a baleen whale. At this point, it's pretty much just bones with some internal organs still left. Here you can see these scavengers picking apart the skeleton to get at the blubber. There are also worms called Osedax here, busy eating the fats right off the bones. It's very normal. It's a natural part of life. Things die and get consumed by other creatures and then go back to the earth, and the cycle continues. There's a real beauty to it, but it's not fun to think about it happening to you. Also, just picture all the poor folks who've gone down in sunken ships and getting picked away at by sea critters. That's kind of depressing. Just in case you needed a reminder of how terrifying great white sharks are, we have this for you. What in God's name? I thought Jaws was just a movie. That thing is absolutely massive. Yeah, logically I know the great whites are called great for a reason and that they're gigantic, but actually seeing one up close like this, popping out of the water and lunging at the camera, I don't think any mental image can prepare you for how nuts this looks when you actually see it. I can only imagine actually being there in person. So yeah, great white sharks, they're scary. How enlightening. All right, so this one's less scary and more just fascinating, but get this. This is footage of two undiscovered species of jellyfish spotted by members of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. First, we have this one, and if I didn't know any better, I'd think this was a comet flying through space or something. So, all right, it does change direction, which gives it away, but before that, definitely doesn't look like a sea creature to me. It's so exciting watching something like this, especially when you have a moment like this.
Entered into the chat that that's an undescribed family, a new species.
Can we collect that pilot?
Video, come on. Hey, watch it, he's way up there.
An undescribed family, a new species. Awesome. It's beautiful. The flashing lights, I don't even know how to describe it, the tentacles on the back, they almost look like fiery jets. It's just really cool, this glowing, odd-looking creature. Then we have this little jelly. Once again, the NOAA researchers had no idea what type of jellyfish this was. Both these creatures were spotted during a dive off the northeast US closest to Newport, Rhode Island. I watched this video while listening to some Vangelis, and I gotta tell you, just exquisite. Earth is a really cool place, sometimes. Next up, we get the Lagarfliot worm, a mysterious creature said to live in the depths of Lagarfliot, a freshwater lake in Iceland. This thing is said to be massive, longer than a bus, around 40 feet. The first sighting of the creature goes all the way back to 1345, but people have been spotting it ever since. In 1963, a high-ranking official from Iceland's National Forest Service claimed to have seen it And in 1998, a teacher and some students reported seeing the giant beast as well. There was also a pretty strange and more famous incident in 1983 when contractors working on a phone cable near the lake's shore found this large shifting mass in the water. Later, they discovered the cable was mysteriously broken where this anomaly was. Another one of the most famous pieces of evidence came in 2012 though, when a 67-year-old farmer filmed what looked like a giant serpentine creature moving just below the surface of the water. What do you think of this footage though? Genuine evidence of the creature or just a misidentification? This video reminds me why I never became a sailor. I've always had a fascination with the sea, especially when I was a kid, but yeah, I don't think it's worth it if this is gonna happen. Leaving aside the danger, I think seasickness would take me out long before waves this big even hit. Just imagine how nauseating this would be. Stuck on this floating ship in the middle of the sea, no control over the giant monster waves rocking you up and down as your stomach slingshots up into your chest. Oh, and on top of that, you're scared the whole boat is just gonna get engulfed in water and sink to the bottom. Nothing like being terrified of drowning while you're already sick to your stomach. What a nightmare. To be fair, sailors do get their sea legs eventually and don't get sick as often, but even still, this is just, it doesn't look like a good time. This video is seriously creepy and will definitely make you second guess swimming alone in murky water. It starts with a guy filming himself swimming in what looks like a lake. Everything seems fine at first until he surfaces to catch some air. When he dives back down, we hear this loud, eerie growl, the last thing you ever want to hear, especially in a big, dark body of water. The idea of being out there alone, swimming, and then hearing something like that underwater? No thank you. Most people would probably bolt out of there or just freak out entirely, but no, this guy decides he's gonna swim toward the sound instead, which is bold or incredibly idiotic. Probably a mix of both. When he finally surfaces, what he captures is this. Now, is this video for real? Yeah, probably not, but I don't know, I think it's a creepy video all the same. Next up, we've got some eerie footage from Alaska. A group of tourists caught something pretty unsettling on camera while visiting during a glacier collapse. They witnessed this massive sea creature, or at least that's what it looks like. The video shows 7 dark fin-like shapes sticking out of the water, right in front of the collapsed glacier. The first 3 humps appear to be connected, and then another 4 follow, almost like the front and tail of some giant serpent-like creature gliding through the water. Naturally, people freaked out when they saw this, trying to figure out what it could be. Some think it might just be 2 huge sturgeons swimming side by side, which could explain the odd shape of the humps. Sturgeons can get pretty massive, so it's definitely a possible explanation, but whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I would not want to be in the water with it. What exactly are we looking at here? It has a pretty otherworldly appearance. The strange bulbous head combined with those ridiculously long tentacles. Is this CGI? Is it an AI video? Well, no, this video is very real, and that is a living creature. What you're looking at here is a big fin squid, a creature that is very rarely seen. The footage was captured at a drilling site in the Gulf of Mexico, but these creatures aren't limited to just one location. They're found throughout the warm tropical waters of the Atlantic Ocean, including the infamous Bermuda Triangle. Obviously, it has incredibly thin, long tentacles. Yeah, those things can stretch from 13 to 26 feet. The big fin squid is the only known species living in the Hadal Zone, the deepest part of the ocean, hitting depths of 19,700 to 36,000 feet, or 6,000 to 11,000 meters. Makes perfect sense things like this live at such incredible depths, given how damn freaky they look. It's just one more reminder of how little we truly know about the mysterious world beneath the waves.
Oumuamua is a mysterious interstellar object that was discovered in 2017. It's the first interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. It's an unusual shape. It's elongated, almost like a cigar. Now, one of the most intriguing aspects of Oumuamua is its acceleration. This thing is pretty fast. As it moved away from the sun, it experienced a slight acceleration that couldn't be explained by the gravitational forces alone. Something's happening here. Now, some scientists have proposed that this acceleration again, could be due to outgassing, a process that comets undergo when they are heated by the sun. Now this has led to some more exotic theories, such as the possibility that Oumuamua could be an artificial object, perhaps a piece of alien technology. While this idea is out of this world, it has sparked a lot of debate and discussion among scientists and the public. Do we think this interstellar object is man-made or alien-made? Comment down below. The cryptic alien signals. NASA has been capturing evidence of extraterrestrial life for quite some time. The James Webb Space Telescope's ability to detect faint signals from distant worlds raises the possibility of discovering signs of intelligent life. And I don't mean us, because we're not that intelligent. The unknown is what is terrifying here. If we were to detect a signal from an extraterrestrial civilization, we would have no idea what their intentions are. What do they want with us? Is that beneficial to learning what's out there, or is this the potential for miscommunication? Language and communication are quite complex, especially when you're an alien. Misinterpreting a signal could lead to unintended consequences, potentially escalating tensions or even triggering a conflict, an outer world conflict. That sounds like Independence Day. That's terrifying. The discovery of extraterrestrial life would raise profound ethical questions, such as how to respond, how to communicate, and of course, how to protect both ourselves and the extraterrestrial civilization. The face on Mars. Now this famous image captured by the Viking 1 orbiter back in 1976 initially appeared to show a human-like face on the Martian surface. Talk about terrifying. The face on Mars has become a focal point for conspiracy theorists who claim that it's evidence of an ancient civilization that was destroyed by some sort of catastrophic event. Some even believe that the face is a warning to humanity about the dangers of nuclear war. Now this has become a cultural phenomenon. The face on Mars has been referred in countless books, movies, TV shows, you name it. It has become a symbol of human curiosity and our desire to explore the unknown. Now this has also been a reminder of our own mortality. Of course, the idea that this advanced civilization could have once existed on Mars only to be wiped out, well, that's a sobering reminder of our own fragility. It raises questions about the future of humanity and possibly of our own extinction. And now we have the hand of God. This X-ray image captured by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory shows a pulsar wind nebula that resembles a giant cosmic hand. It's like the final villain in Smash Bros. Can't beat that guy. The hand of God is a remnant of a supernova explosion, a cataclysmic event that can outshine entire galaxies. The intense radiation could actually take out all life forms, and yes, NASA should be very worried about this. Space is absolutely terrifying. I would never step foot out there ever. Space is a hostile environment for human life. We shouldn't be out there. The vacuum of space, extreme temperatures, harmful radiation, you name it. I'm not sure why something that could literally take out humans is being named as the hand of God, but whatever, we'll take it. The light we see from the hand of God today has traveled for thousands of years, giving us a glimpse, really, into the past. Next we have the doorway on Mars. In 2022, NASA's Curiosity rover captured an intriguing image of a rock formation on Mars that resembled a doorway. A doorway to where? To who? This peculiar feature, located on Mount Sharp, sparked widespread curiosity and of course fueled speculation of the potential signs of ancient Martian civilizations. The doorway appeared to be a rectangular opening, roughly 12 inches tall and 16 inches wide, carved into the Martian rock. The doorway on Mars has become a focal point for conspiracy theorists. Of course, they all claim that this is evidence of an ancient civilization that once inhabited the planet. Some even believe that the doorway is a portal to another dimension or some sort of secret underground base. Is it possible that us humans lost a lot of these advanced technologies? What is teleporting through time or dimensions used to be normal for these civilizations? This is pretty deep and it's lots to think about, so comment all your theories down below. Moving on, let me take you back to 2022. NASA released a sonification of the Perseus cluster, translating the pressure waves emitted by the supermassive black hole at its center into sound. Yeah, now we can hear black holes. We're in the future, folks. The result is a deep, haunting hum that can be unsettling to many. Is this even happening? How is this possible? The fact that we're able to have recordings of something like this is actually insane to me and my human brain. We're talking about the sounds in a potential black hole. At the heart of the Perseus cluster lies a supermassive black hole, millions of times more massive than that of our sun. Now this black hole is capable of swallowing entire stars and emitting powerful jets of energy. Galaxies within the Perseus cluster are consistently colliding and merging, creating chaotic and destructive events that reshape the cosmic landscape. It's going to be just a matter of time before it collides with Earth, and then at that point, well, will just simply vanish forever. Next up, we have the NGC 2467, also known as the Skull Nebula. It's a fascinating celestial object, and by fascinating I mean absolutely terrifying. Just looking at these images, it looks like the Milky Way. It's really hard to understand what it is we're looking at and how big these things really are in comparison to our planet here. When we gaze upon the Skull Nebula, we're not merely observing a distant celestial object. No, we're peering into the distant past. Take that in for a second. The light that reaches our eyes today has been traveling through space for millions of years, and then finally it reaches our eyes. This means we're seeing the nebula as it existed millions of years ago, not how it looks today. It's like looking back in time, witnessing a cosmic event that happened long before humans even existed. Next up, we have the Black Knight. Not to be confused with Martin Lawrence' The Black Knight, that's a little bit different. The most captivating claim here is that the Black Knight has been orbiting Earth for an astonishing 13,000 years. This idea, rooted in misinterpretation of a radio signal from the 1920s, suggests a highly advanced civilization with the technology to launch a satellite millennia ago. The mysterious radio signals, let's talk about that right off the bat. In the early 20th century, radio operators responded to these strange signals that were later attributed to the Black Knight satellite. These signals, which some believe were attempts at communication, only added to the mystery surrounding this object. Conspiracy theorists have suggested that the signals being sent out in space were coming from the satellite itself, which would be crazy considering how old it is. They argue that this would imply a civilization capable of launching a satellite thousands of years ago, far surpassing our current technological capabilities. Maybe the civilization that built the pyramids were also creating the Black Knight satellite. Maybe they were busy, who knows? Imagine having Wi-Fi signals in the Great Pyramids. Oh, that'd be amazing. Candy Crush in the pyramids? Oh, we're set, that's life. Who knows what technology they had in the ancient Egyptian times, because we'll never know at this point. Next up, we have the Cat's Eye Nebula, which is just incredible to learn about. Take a look at all these pictures, okay? Believe it or not, but the iconic image of the Cat's Eye Nebula was captured by the Hubble Space Telescope back in 1994. That's 30 years ago. That's as old as me. Crazy. The Cat's Eye Nebula is a planetary nebula, a stage in the life cycle of a star like our sun, and it's a preview of what our sun might look like billions of years from now when it sheds out its outer layers. Spoiler alert, it's terrifying and really hot. This truly is a glimpse into the future, whereas the other ones are a glimpse into the past. The Cat's Eye Nebula is a preview of what our sun might look like billions of years from now. That's like the worst trailer for a movie ever. This must be terrifying for NASA to research and figure out exactly what this is, and if this could destroy planet Earth. Let's hope not.